morning everybody. I am Dr. Nitin Doshi, Professor in Urology with teaching experience of 25 years, working as consultant neurosurgeon in Panvel for more than 25 years. Today we will see the fourth step of TRP as per Mormai's principle. Now what is the principle of Mormai's fourth step? According to Mormais, the resection should begin at the 5 and 7 o'clock of the floor sector. Normally, the floor sector at 5 and 7 o'clock is occupied by median lobe. In case the median lobe is absent, then because of posterior commissure hyperplasia, there is bladder neck elevation. And so, if this part of the floor sector is cleared first, then the movement of the resectoscope is simplified, as well as the emptying of TR chips as well as the irrigation fluid from the bladder becomes easy. Now when we start this resection between 5 and 7 o'clock position, we have to define the boundaries or the limits of the resection. So there is proximal boundary of resection, distal boundary of resection, and peripheral boundary of resection. Now the proximal boundary of resection is internal sphincter. The distal boundary of resection is Veru at 6 o'clock in midline, and peripheral boundary of resection is capsule, which is formed by the compression of peripheral zone by the enlargement of the transition zone. In order to identify and define this, we have to know the appearance of all the four important structures, and that is one, internal sphincter, second, Veru, which we have already discussed, third, that is the capsule, and fourth, that is hyperplastic adenoma. The internal sphincter, it is consisting of the bundle of smooth muscle fibers arranged parallel to each other, encircling the bladder neck and proximal part of the prostatic urethra. The capsule is formed by the meshwork or network of interwoven smooth muscle bundle fibers, and it has got the homogeneous appearance. The hyperplastic adenoma appearance is variable because the appearance of the hyperplastic adenoma depends upon the predominant element present in the adenoma, but classically it is dotted fine granular appearance. Now what is the significance of the defining the internal sphincter or fibers which are laid parallel to each other at bladder neck? This is because important point is it forms the proximal boundary of resection. Second, in the region of internal sphincter, if there is too much of resection or too much of coagulation, then this will result into bladder neck contracture. So post-operatively, patient will start developing obstructive voiding symptoms. Also, if there is deep resection in the central part of the internal sphincter, there is a chance that there is a subtrigonal perforation. If the subtrigonal perforation is small, during the healing process, again it produces secondary bladder neck contracture. And if the subtrigonal perforation is deep and wide, it results into extravasation, which can be the cause of even the delayed TR syndrome. Also, if there is a deep resection in the lateral part of the internal sphincter, then there can be a free perforation at vasico-prostatic junction. So, it is important to define properly the internal sphincter and spare the fibers of the internal sphincter. Now, when you are defining the fibers of internal sphincter, or you are doing the resection near the bladder neck because of presence of median lobe or because of the endovesical lateral lobes, it is important that some quantity of irrigation fluid is mandatory. This is because in empty state, the dome or fundus of the bladder will coming closer to or in contact with the bladder neck. And so, if there is no irrigation fluid in the bladder during the resection of the median lobe or bladder neck elevation, then there is a chance that inadvertent resection of the dome or fundus of the bladder causing bladder perforation. Now when you are doing the resection or the incision of the median lobe or the endovesical lateral lobe, that is resection near the bladder neck, that time we are closer to two important structures, and that is the two ureteric orifices and interureteric bar. And so the resection should be done by predetermined starting point. What is this predetermined starting point? In this, the area to be resected is first identified, the loop is applied to the area to be resected, and this area which is to be resected is seen that it is away from the area to be protected. That is, in this area it is the interureteric bar and two ureteric orifices. Once this starting point is fixed, that is area to be resected, then the sheath resectoscope is gradually extended down from bladder neck towards the veru in the prostatic urethra. When the sheath is getting extended, care is to be taken that loop will not change. Thus, the starting point is fixed. Once you are sure that the starting point is fixed, then only the loop is withdrawn towards the sheath and simultaneously the cutting current is activated, thus achieving the cut which is called predetermined starting point, as a result of which you are protecting the important structures nearby the area of resection. So, whenever you are doing resection near the bladder neck, some quantity of irrigation fluid in the bladder and resection by predetermined starting point. Now comes the concept of the Nesbit's principle of the marking trench. That is, to begin with, in the beginning itself, the marking trench is if dug, then it acts as a good guide, because the depth of resection which one can safely carry out is defined in the beginning. In this marking trench, you are exposing the capsule. Capsule is acting as the peripheral boundary of the resection. So, in this Nesbit's principle of the marking trench, what you are achieving is your exposure of the capsule, and this is achieved with the help of two important cut techniques, and that is single cut technique and divided cut technique. What is single cut technique? Taking shallower cuts layer by layer, going from superficial to deep gradually, thereby reaching the capsule, is single cut technique. What is divided cut technique? When the distance from bladder neck to veru is significantly more, then the problem of the resectoscope sheath is that the orientation is limited. So as the distance from bladder neck to veru increases, there is a problem of loss of orientation, and so to prevent that, you divide this entire length from bladder neck to veru in divided cut technique, so that orientation is not lost. What is this technique? That after a part of the first incision, then the inner end of the sheath, that is vesical end of the sheath, will be covering the veru, hence the external sphincter, and the loop will be touching the end of the first cut. Now there is a distance between the loop and the Veru. So what is you are doing, that the loop is touching the end of the first and the Veru is covered by the sheath, hence external sphincter is covered by sheath, so it is like a predetermined endpoint. Now from the proximal cut end, the loop will be withdrawn into the sheath and simultaneously cutting current is activated, as a result of which there are two cuts, and so the composite effect of these two cuts will be the length of the groove which is required. As a result, now we are achieving the cut by the single cut technique, as a entire depth is exposed, and by the divided cut technique entire length from bladder neck to Veru is exposed. Because the depth is exposed, it acts as a good guide for rest of the resection. Since the capsule is exposed, during the exposure of capsule, even capsular vessels are also exposed, which form the external or outer group of blood supply to the prostate. These capsular vessels, they are feeding the adenoma. So when these capsular vessels, when exposed, they are coagulated. Once they are coagulated, the blood supply to the adenoma decreases. As a result, the rest of the procedure of resection of this devascularized adenoma becomes easy, simpler, and with less blood loss. So now we have to take the two cuts, that is marking trenches, from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, so that the pedunculated median lobe will be properly demarcated. It will get separated from the two lateral lobes. Now comes the concept of cone-shaped resection. Cone, broad base and narrow apex. Narrow apex is at Veru, while the broad base is at bladder neck. This broad base is consisting of, in the center, median lobe, while on the either side of the median lobe there will be basal parts of both the two lateral lobes. So during this cone-shaped resection, the two lateral lobes, that is the basal parts of the two lateral lobes, will be also resected bilaterally, symmetrically, simultaneously, not one by one. So when you have demarcated the median lobe, then the resection will be done by help of rapid sequence serial cutting, because already the adenoma is devascularized. Now what do you mean by rapid sequence serial cutting? Here the successive cuts are laid parallel to each other. They will be like the plowing of the field. So each successive cut gets the information of depth and end from the previous cut, or previous cut gives idea about the depth as well as end point for the successive cut. So the resection will be by rapid sequence cutting, serial cutting. Serial means from one by one, going from right to left and left to right, till the main major bulk of the adenoma is resected. Even after the resection of major bulk of the adenoma, when the amount of adenoma remains significantly smaller, then also it will be rapid sequence serial cutting, going from right to left, left to right, but shallower cuts. Even in case of the apical lobe resection, which will be done last, also the principle of cutting is rapid sequence serial cutting, going from right to left and left to right, but the cuts will be smaller, shallower and superficial. So after the median lobe is getting flattened, at the bladder neck the internal sphincter will be exposed. Also, Once between the 5 and 7 o'clock median lobe is resected, one will proceed with the basal parts of both the lateral lobes so as to complete the broad base resection at the bladder neck. What is remaining now only is the apex, and that is part of the median lobe at 5 and 7 o'clock from the bladder neck to Veru. This part which is remaining will be done by the cutting, what is called as predetermined end point cutting technique. What is this technique? Here the inner end of the sheath, that is vesical end, will be covering Veru. This is because Veru is just proximal to the external sphincter. So once you cover the sheath with Veru, automatically external sphincter is protected. The major continence is controlled by external sphincter, and so if you protect the external sphincter, continence can be maintained. Once the Veru is covered, the tissue to be resected on that loop is extended, and when loop is getting withdrawn, then only the cutting current is activated. As a result of this, there will be cut with the predetermined end point. During this, naturally you are covering the Veru which is fixed, hence there is no danger of damaging the external sphincter. Like this, you are achieving the cone shaped resection, and that is broad base at the bladder neck. Central part is median lobe, and on the either side basal parts of the two lateral lobes with the apex at Veru. Now the last part of this is remaining is bladder neck incision. Now the bladder neck incision, this is to be so as to prevent the secondary bladder neck contracture in the process of healing. Now what is this bladder neck? The bladder neck is consisting of the ring of smooth muscle fibers arranged in a circular fashion, and tightness of this ring is responsible for obstruction, and obstruction is responsible for loose. So if this tight ring is incised ideally at one point, then the tightness is relieved, obstruction is relieved, symptoms are relieved. And so if you incise the bladder neck, the lutes will be improved. Normally the blood supply to the prostate, main blood supply, is from 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock. At 12 o'clock position, adenomatous tissue is minimal, capsule is thin, periprostatic venous plexuses are close to the capsule, but at 6 o'clock, because of the posterior commissural hyperplasia, there is significant adenomatous tissue between the bladder neck and capsule. Also, major blood supply is 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock and 1 o'clock position. So 6 o'clock is relatively avascular, and so if you take the incision at 6 o'clock position, this is comparatively safer and it helps to relieve the obstruction by incising the tightness of the ring. In case of the sexually active young male with small prostate but significant lutes, bladder neck incision is the procedure of choice. In case of this bladder neck incision, the incidence of retrograde ejaculation is significantly lesser as compared to TURP. According to Orandi, the one bladder neck incision at 6 o'clock position may not be sufficient, and so he advocates 2 incisions at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock position. Now this bladder neck incision is carried out by what is called as the Collins knife or hook. Now it is also type of active electrode. It is called as hook or loop because the part with which the tissue is cut has got shape of knife or shape of the hook. Now this particular part has got shape of hook or knife, hence the name Collins knife. Now since it is an active electrode, after cutting, if there are minor bleeders, then coagulating current also can be passed, and hence the hemostasis can be achieved easily. Now since it has got hook or the knife, in case of introduction of the resectoscope without obturator, in case it is not available, then you can introduce by mounting the loop to the working element, but you should never introduce the resectoscope sheath even if you want to do the bladder neck incision only. This is because it will be protruding and will damage the urethra. Now in case when you are mounting this particular electrode, then the field of vision gets restricted, it gets reduced because of the shape of the knife and hook. And so before you mount the active hook, you have to define all the landmarks, particularly in case of bladder neck incision. You have to define the bladder neck and interureteric bar. Now what are the uses of this bladder neck the Collins knife? One, bladder neck incision in case of the bladder neck elevation because of posterior commissural hyperplasia. Second, secondary bladder neck contracture, that is bladder neck incision in case of secondary bladder neck contracture. Third, for the incision of ureterocele. Fourth, endoscopic ureterolithotomy. What is endoscopic ureterolithotomy? That is, if a comparatively a large stone is impacted in the terminal part of intramural part of the ureter and part of the stone may be protruding, in such impacted stone ureteroscopy may be difficult. This peeping stone from the ureteric orifice, if you make an incision, part of the incision on the intramural part, the stone will be delivered from the intramural part of the ureter into the bladder, and then cystolithotrity can be easily carried out. Now what is the technique of carrying out the bladder neck incision? We have seen that with the loop we have to define the boundaries, and that is the bladder neck and the interureteric bar. Once you know the distance between the bladder neck and the interureteric bar, you can remove the loop, you mount the hook, that is the Collins knife, you come towards the bladder neck. At 6 o'clock position, because of posterior commissural hyperplasia, there will be significant adenomatous tissue. You evaluate whether the bladder neck elevation after the resection of the cone at bladder neck, still whether the bladder neck is elevated with respect to flat tribone. Once you come to the bladder neck, then with the hook, with the cutting current, you start incising the mucosa. After the mucosa, there will be adenomatous tissue. Start incising. Once you start incising and you go layer by layer, there will be widening of the bladder neck. Because of incision of adenomatous tissue, bladder neck will start opening and gradually you will start reaching the capsule. However, don't incise the capsule, because just below the capsule will be large voluminous periprostatic, that is the venous sinuses, and it will result into extensive venous bleeding. You have to take the incision from bladder neck to veru. At the end of the incision, because of the incising the adenomatous tissue between the mucosa and the capsule, the bladder neck will spring open, and so even if the telescope is at veru, you can see the bladder space of the bladder cavity. Relatively 6 o'clock position is avascular, so even if there are minor bleeders, it can be easily coagulated with the help of the hook itself. At the end of this, the fourth step of TRP is over. Thank you very much.